A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. Just gone by, Benjamin was engaging two MPs from the main political sides on various issues. It's now time for us to have a very, very important conversation. It's one we've had before, but emphasis is important and the need to continue to put prominence on it to ensure that it remains a relevant conversation across the board. We're talking about precision quality today and also the need to help in dealing with the high unemployment rate in our country. According to the 2021 population census, over 50% of Ghana's population is under 25. Unfortunately, many of these young people do not get jobs, are either told to be entrepreneurs when they do not have what it takes to survive in the industry. I'm so pleased this morning to host Madam Constance Swanika. If you're somebody who appreciates precision quality, this is a name that you should not be alien to. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And thank you so much for joining us. She founded and also is the president of the Design Training Institute, DTI, and she's the also, she is the one who created the arts and accents. Is it accents and arts? Sorry, I missed that. Accents and arts. They're very creative people and do a lot of designs. And there is a program happening tomorrow, and she's here to tell us more about that. Before we go into the program, though, I mentioned you being president of the DTI. Do you mind telling us what inspired the creation of DTI and what you do?
So basically, Design and Technology Institute is a skills and education center. We're in the business of reskilling and upskilling young people and preparing them better for the world of work to meet the needs of industry. I think in the last few years, and I think more recently, there's been a lot of talk about whether we're transitioning young people and preparing them for the world of work, especially because skill sets and everything is changing so rapidly in the face of technological advances. And so DTI was set up to really fill that gap between academia and the world of work.
And DTI is a place you should visit. She's giving you a mental picture of what it is, but until you get there, you cannot have a complete understanding and appreciation of what they do there. You can pass by their school premises. So there is also the conversation of precision quality, because I understand that DTI was established not only to fill the gap, but to fill it excellently. Exactly. So what is precision quality, and why is it something that we should pay keen attention to, especially for young people who want to be relevant and fit in the criteria for industry?
So precision quality really is a concept around doing things to meet the standards and the needs, requirements of the market. And I think when you look at our DNA of production and manufacturing, there hasn't really been an emphasis on why there's the need to do things precisely and also have the underlying quality mindset. And this is something that is missing in the way we're trained to do things. And so when you look at the influx of foreign goods and even services that is being rendered by expats or things that are imported, the consumer actually prefers things that are imported. Because when you look at things that are produced here, I mean, there's a huge difference between the product when you put things together. And so as we really push and advocate for manufacturing and the need to create jobs that would compete globally, these are concepts that we cannot overemphasize. It's not in the business of doing things and thinking that it's okay. It's not. And I think that when you work in high precision industries, especially in the manufacturing sector, you find that everything is of global standard. And so this is a concept that we're really advocating for. And for everybody to begin to understand that having a precision quality mindset begins with a mindset. It's a mindset shift of being aware of doing things deliberately and intentionally.
I think that for many people, they think it's hard, also because they are not skilled. to be precise and offer quality. What would you like to say to those who say, it's hard, you know, I've been trying to get this straight, you know, I've been trying very hard to shift my mind and tell me it's possible, but it's a lot of hard work, isn't it? And while we shift our minds, we must be ready and brace ourselves for the fact that it's not going to come like with the snap of a finger.
You know, actually, change is difficult. You know, you say that, well, this is how it's been done for many, many years. And when you deal with our local artisans who have gone through the apprentice system, who, you know, have had the skill passed on from generations, that's all they've known. You know, so we don't expect that overnight, you know, you'd start telling them, start doing things properly. But a lot of the times, it's actually the lack of even using the right tools and the right instruments to measure precision. So for instance, you know, if you're measuring and when you're doing things at precise, the margin of error should be really, you know, almost zero, which means that using the right calipers, using the right tools that would enable you to measure precision. And I think that sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge that people are just not aware that the human eye cannot detect error. So it's the use of machines, and sometimes these things don't cost much. Are you using the right measuring tapes, you know, the right T-squares? What sort of equipment are you using to ensure that? Even just a common level. You know, you have a bricklayer who's doing something and obviously can see that everything is crooked. You see the level next to him and he's not using it. He'll tell you, oh, but I stood back and I gauged and it looked okay. But yet when you stand back, you see that everything is crooked. Industry doesn't work like that. And that's why when you look at a lot of the construction going on, you see actually a lot of foreigners who actually would dominate the construction industry. You know, and so we shouldn't say that this is how it's been done for generations, so we should accept this status quo. You know, for us to be able to compete globally, there is the need for us to be deliberate that the world, you know, the currency for trade is actually quality and standards, really.
Right. I know you can relate as she's talking about buildings. You may have seen a pillar that's slightly tilted to the left or right. I know buildings in this country that have been left abandoned because of concerns or collapsed. Recently, we had a couple of them. So these are important things that we must all pay attention to. So here's what Constance and the team at DTI have been doing for some time. They've put together a conference, right? Tell us about it.
So in the last couple of years, in the last 3 years actually, we realized that there has to be a lot of conversations around this concept. And so every year what we do is to bring together all the relevant stakeholders from industry, from academia, from, you know, young people who would enter the job market, from industry that is dictating its demands, and policymakers. Because when we look at the curriculum that we actually use to train young people, whether it's in an apprenticeship, informal sector, or in a more formalized sector, these are, you know, the concept is generally missing. And so we realize that there has to be very high-level conversations around how do we use policy to ensure that this would drive the changes that we need to see, especially because we're talking about high unemployment rates and what are the barriers that is preventing young people from entering the world of work. Industry is not saying that there are no jobs. There are actually an abundance of jobs.
High-paying ones.
High-paying ones, you know, and the more industry would pay, then the more the expectations of the standards is expected. And so I think it's time that we just stop talking, but how do we use private sector to really drive, you know, some of these changes that we're talking about.
What has been the feedback over the years? This is the 4th edition, which will be hosted tomorrow. What have you been told by those who participated, and generally in terms of formulating policy, what feedback have you received?
It's really been really interesting. I think when we started the conversation around precision quality, it couldn't have been timely when you look at what is happening in the ecosystem. And so it was really well embraced. In the last couple of, the last 3 years, if I may say, the movement has really grown beyond our wildest dreams. And I think this is an important topic that nobody had really put these two words together as the missing link. You know, I must also commend the public sector, who really should be the ones who are creating the right enabling environments for industry to thrive, you know, and how they've worked very closely with us from the private sector side, when you also look at the informal sector who also acknowledge that the way they've been doing things is not acceptable, I think at the end of the day, everybody is interested in what will move the country forward. And so this is when you have conversations around non-partisan conversations, but everybody understands that there's a problem and what do we do to fix it collectively? So what is the role of stakeholders working together to understand that, at the end of the day, we all want young people to get those, dignified and fulfilling jobs that are out there. And so for me, it's exciting to see that with all the noise that goes on around the country, it's not all, gloomy. But when you look at what stakeholders are doing, we are very concerned. And so we're really excited, that our stakeholders have also embraced this conversation very well.
So what's the theme and who will be speaking at this conference?
So at the conference, it's the role of stakeholders in driving job creation. And so we have quite a number of vice chancellors from the universities who are supposed to be the ones who are transitioning graduates into the world of work. We have captains of industry. We also have the Deputy Minister for Labour and Employment Relations. And then we also have the informal sector and young people. So basically everybody who should be at the table is going to be at this conference tomorrow.
I have been to DTI. Like I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And when you get there, you realize that everything is not just in the air or at the theory level, is very practical down to the very basic. And they have a mantra there: talk less, do more. So what is the big dream for this conference as you put people together? It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of investment, but there's a goal to this, right? Do you mind sharing with us?
I must say that, when you begin to work on important and relevant conversations, our stakeholders understand that this is not just what DTI is doing alone, but everybody understands the role that they all play. And this is something that I would like to stress, that when you talk about things that, especially policy that will drive the next steps, the role of the public sector is to create the enabling environment. So instead of us sitting and also complaining and expecting the government, they have to say, hey, are buying, everything you're waiting for are buying. I don't think that when you look at consensus building and nation building, if I may use that word, what does it take for us to ensure that we're driving our nation to where we want to get to? And I think this is something that as citizens, it all lies with us. If young people are unemployed, then that means that you will not sleep well at night. So whatever happens in the ecosystem affects you. So what does co-creation and what does collaboration really look like when we talk about, some of these topics?
And this is important for those of you who are watching. Like I said, I know you can relate. There's a dress you took to the seamstress. It didn't come the way you wanted it, right? There was a device you took for it to be fixed. It didn't come back. In fact, it was worse than you took it. These are all things that affect us every day. And ma'am, I'm sure there's somebody watching us that I want to be a part of this. Maybe she runs a school. Maybe she, and don't even cooking, right? You're a caterer. What's the quality of meal you're serving? Does it taste the same way every day? Yeah. Or you always give us a dose of how you feel when you're pouring in the ingredients?
Exactly.
And there are people at home who are thinking, this is a good initiative. Maybe I have an apprentice. I run a training school for seamstresses and designers, and I want to be a part of this. It's happening at the Labadi Beach Hotel tomorrow, but I'm sure we can't accommodate everybody who wants to be a part. So how do they join? How do they feel a part of this? It's being
live streamed on actually some of the media channels. So because we want this to be a nationwide conversation, we do understand that the topic is very relevant and a lot of people are beginning to ask questions. So they're most welcome to join us and to share their comments, and for us to make them part of the conference remotely.
Great. Madame Constance Swanika here, she's a champion of precision quality, and over the years she's gotten people to rally behind it. The last time she was here, she told us how difficult it was even getting artisans to get the concept of being precise and producing quality products. But over the years, she's amassed such a following and a people who believe in the concept. Mind you, this is not only for just creating products, it's also creating employment and making young people employable because we have quality here in Ghana. Trust me, there are people from Ghana who are working outside the country. They're brilliant, but it's just because they got the right training, the right certification. And that's what this is all about. So join us tomorrow at the Labadi Beach Hotel. It will be live streamed here on the Joy News channel, also on my Joy Online. You can be a part of it. Send us your comments. Learn something so that together we can build the nation. Thank you once again. That will be it for our conversation. We've got more right here on the AM show. Do stay.